Hello, dear students. Now we will continue today with the play Trifles. Let's see where we last time where we stopped. Um, so I hope everybody got the text, the play with him or her, so that we can just see where we last time. I have made two videos before that explaining the play. So watch those two videos before you watch this one. Um, Let me see where we stopped last time. Right. With the text you have, please go to page 6. Page 6. Now on page 6 you see Mrs. Hale, the neighbor of Minnie, Minnie Wright, and the county attorney, the lawyer, are talking. So Mrs. Hale is saying, let me find it here. I'm sorry, I have the text with me printed and I'm not paying attention to the screen. Page 6. No, this one. So Miss Hale shaking her head. I have not seen much of her of late years. So she hasn't met Miss Wright, Mrs. Minnie Wright, the wife, was accused of the murder. So the neighbor, Mrs. Hale, saying that she hasn't seen Minnie for the late years, in the last years. She didn't meet her a lot. I have not been in the house, so she hasn't visited this house more than a year. And why was that? You didn't like her? I liked her all well enough. Farmer's wife have their hands full, Mr. Henderson. And then, so she said that, well, he wanted to find some evidences. Well, you don't like her? She said, no, I like her, but farmer's wife have their hands full. I explained it in last video. Means the farmer's wife are always busy because she lives in a farm and she has so many vegetables from the farm she has to cut and clean and keep for the winter or sell in the town. There's the children, so there are so many things to do. She doesn't have time to go and visiting a neighbor. And then, which means there's another reason. What is this? And the attorney is curious to say yes. He wants to see what is the other reason. It never seemed a very cheerful place. So the house does not look a happy house. You don't see flowers on the porch. You don't see nice windows, nice curtains, people smiling to you when you pass by. It doesn't look, it looks gloomy and dull. And I talked about that last time. I said the house can also be a symbol of the married life between Mr. John and Mrs. Minnie, to show their life is not cheerful. It's gloomy. It is sad. It's harsh. So the county, no, it's not cheerful. I shouldn't say she had the homemaking instinct, which means he's agreeing, said, no, it's not looking happy. I don't think she has this homemaking instinct, which means a good housewife where she can keep everything bright and nice. But this shows when a wife neglects her house, means she is feeling emotionally alienated, depressed, and she doesn't have any interest in anything to take the house, to take care of the house and make it look pretty. Well, I don't know, as Wright had either. So she's always accusing Wright because Wright also does not have the homemaking instinct, not the person who can make the house happy. You mean that they didn't get on very well? He wants to see if their relationship, a husband and wife, John and Minnie, are on a good relationship or not. He says, you mean they are not on a good relationship? No, I don't mean anything, but I don't think a place be any cheerfuler. Sorry, I don't think a place be any cheerfuler for John Wright being in it. So this is a very clear expression that John Wright is a harsh person, a cruel, harsh person. So if he is in any place, that place would not look happy, would not look cheerful, will look harsh and gloomy. So she says, well, any place John Wright will be, it would not be cheerful, which means he's a harsh, cruel man who's always, maybe violent with women, with his wife, always using violence, cruel, not the person you can talk to. So the attorney says, I'd like to talk more of that a little later. I want to get the lay of things upstairs now. He wants to know more about John, but says, I want to go upstairs to the bedroom to see if I can find any evidence. So he left upstairs. The sheriff, I suppose anything Mrs. Peters does will be all right. She wants to take in some clothes for her, and a few little things we left in such a hurry yesterday. So the sheriff is saying to the lawyer that Mrs. Peters, the wife of the sheriff, wants to take some clothes for Minnie in jail in the prison. So she wants to take some clothes for her and a few things. Is that okay? And then, yes, but I would like to see what you take, Mrs. Peters, and keep an eye out for anything that might be of use for us. Says, okay, you can take, but I want to see what you are taking because I want to make sure that you are not taking anything important or like evidence. And Mrs. Peters, yes, Mr. Henderson. And this is very important because later on, the two women, Mrs. Peters and Mrs. Hale, are going to find the dead bird, and they're gonna hide it because the dead bird could be an evidence against many. So they will hide the dead bird among the things they would take to Minnie. And the attorney, the lawyer, says, "Oh, she's just taking some clothes and trivial things, trifle things. We don't need to see anything." So they ignore it and they let them hide the evidence. It just shows that men do not have the wisdom and the understanding, while women do have the deep understanding of a true investigator, a true um, detectives who could see clearly small details and find out the reason behind them. Okay, the woman listened to men step upstairs and look out about the kitchen. Miss Hale, I'd hate to have men coming into my kitchen, snooping around and criticizing. She arranged the pans and the sink which the lawyer had shoved out of place. Mrs. Peters, of course it's no more than their duty. Miss Hale, duty all right, but I guess that a deputy sheriff that came out to make the fire might have got a little of this on. Gives the roller towel a pull. Wish I'd thought of that sooner. Seemed mean to talk about her for not having things light up when she had to come away in such a hurry. Which means, she said, I don't like the lawyer and the sheriff talks about Minnie that her house is not tidy and it's not nice. And she just they came to her and they took her to prison in such a hurry. She could not, they found the bread on the table, they found the towel there. She couldn't arrange things, of course. She was taken to prison. There's a murder in the house. How can she take care of the kitchen? So this shows Miss Hale is defending Minnie, defending her women of her own gender because she found that she has to stand and support women of her own gender. She knows the suffering of women at that time. Mrs. Peters, who has gone to a small table in the left rear corner of the room and lifted one end of the towel that covers a pan, she had a bread set. She says there is a bread. Mrs. Hale, eyes fixed on a loaf of bread beside the bread box, which is on a low shelf at the other side of the room, moves slowly towards it. She was going to put this in there. Picks up a loaf, then abruptly drops it in a manner of returning to familiar things. So she put the bread in its place. That's what Miss Hale is always fixing things instead of Minnie. It's shame about her fruit. I wonder if it's all gone. I talked about that last lecture, that when you make marmalade, murabba, or jam, you have fruit and you put them in a container, a glass container. If it is very cold, the glass breaks because the glass expands in cold weather. So she said she was looking above the cabinet to see if those containers of a fruit are good or not or broken. And then she said, I think there's some here. That's all right, Mrs. Peters. Yes, here, holding it towards the window. This is cherries. So it's a cherry marmalade. Looking again. I declare I believe that's the only one. Gets down, bottle in her hand, goes to the sink and wipes it off on the outside. So she will feel awful bad if, after all her hard work in the hot weather. I remember the afternoon I put up my cherries last summer. She's cleaning that container if there is anything leak or something. She put the bottle on the big kitchen table, center of the room, with a sigh. It's about to sit down in the rocking chair before she's seated. Realized what chair it is. Slow look. So she wanted to sit on the chair, but she remembers that is the chair Minnie was sitting, the day before, and she felt, she doesn't like it. So she stood. Mrs. Peters, well, I must get those things from the front room closet. So she wants to go to the room and get some clothes for Minnie. You coming with me, Mrs. Hale? You could help me carry them. They go to the other room, then they reappear. Mrs. Peters carrying a dress and skirt, Miss Hale following with a pair of shoes. Miss Peters, my, it's so cold in there. She puts the clothes on a big table and hurries to the stove. Mrs. Hale, right was a clothes. I think maybe that's why she kept. I explained this paragraph last video, but I'm gonna explain it again. It's okay. When she says right, which means many right, the woman was close. Close means not sociable, not talking. Somebody close on himself. This is an old language, of course. This is a play written at the early 20th century. So this is the language of Midwest American. So person's close means he's not to talk. He keeps so much within himself. She didn't even belong to the Ladies' Aid. We talked about that. Ladies' Aid is a kind of a group of women in the town where they meet and they do different jobs, different things like knitting, like weaving, and they help the poor. And it's a lovely thing for women to talk and joke and laugh. She didn't join them. That we can conclude, we don't know in this play, but we can conclude that the husband does not like these things, doesn't want his wife to leave the house. And then she didn't belong to that. And then they said, suppose she felt she couldn't do her part, then you don't enjoy things when you feel shabby. Shabby means wearing bad clothes, old clothes, you know, torn clothes, clothes that you feel ashamed of wearing them in front of people because they're so pale and old. And that means the husband was not giving Minnie money to buy nice clothes whenever she wants to go and see people or go to town. Look here, this is very nice part of information about Minnie before she gets married, that she was really a happy girl, wearing nice clothes and singing. And that what happened to her after marriage, 30 years of marriage. She's melancholic, she's sad, she's wearing, you know, all the clothes, she's not talking to anyone. She used to wear pretty clothes to be lively when she was Minnie Foster. That's her name before she gets married. The old Minnie, the happy one of the town girls singing in the choir, singing in the church. But that's all, that was 30 years ago. This old you was to take in. So they remember, the neighbor remembers Minnie Foster before she gets married, that she was a happy girl, pretty girl wearing nice clothes. But look what happened to her after 30 years of marriage. She is wearing bad clothes. She's sad. She doesn't talk to anyone. She doesn't meet anyone. Okay, so that could tell us about the harsh, cruel husband she has. She said she wanted an apron. Funny things to want, for there is not much to get your dirty in jail, goodness knows. But I suppose just to make her feel more natural. She said there was in the top drawer in the cupboard. Yes, here and there. Then her little shawl that I always hang behind the door. So she wanted the apron. Apron normally you women put when they want to cook or wash to keep their clothes clean. Why she wanted in jail. And Mrs. Peter says maybe just to feel familiar because that's the first thing women wear when they wake up in the morning. They put it on, so just to make it because of the habit. It also shows the dedication of housewives. They are very dedicated. Mrs. Hale, Mrs. Peters, yes. Do you think she did it? Also, explain it. Do you think she really murdered her husband? And Mrs. Peters says, oh, I don't know. Well, I don't think she did. Asking for an apron and her little shawl, worrying about her fruit. Mrs. Peters starts to speak, glance of footsteps, and she says, Mr. Peters says it looks bad for her. Mr. Henderson is awful sarcastic in his speech and he'll make fun of her saying she didn't wake up. Because when they tell her, okay, somebody strangled your husband while he's asleep and you didn't wake up to see who is doing that, she said, no, I sleep deep. I did not wake up. So, well, I guess John Wright didn't wake up when they were slipping that rope around his neck. So also Mr. John did not wake up when they were putting a rope around his neck and, strangling him. No, it's strange. It must have been done awfully crafty and still is very important. So to hang a person like John Wright, who is a farmer and has good muscle, so to put a rope around his neck and twist the rope deep, strong pressure on his neck needs someone who is really skillful, somebody who's really muscle, has a good muscle to do that. So it's strange, and the wife is tiny. So they said somebody must have very craft and very strong body to do that. It's a funny way to kill a man, wringing it all up like that, mean wringing his neck, twisting his neck, which is very important because this is the way later on we see the bird that Minnie Wright used to have a canary in a cage in her kitchen just to give her some nice, mood in the house as she's alone. And the husband walks to the kitchen, sees that canary. He did not open the door. He breaks the door of the cage, breaks it to see how violent he is, and get the bird out. And he didn't let him fly. He twisted his neck and kill him. It's very savagery from this man. It's a savage act of this man, and there is no reason for that. So you will see because he twisted the neck of the bird, John Wright died in the same way his neck was twisted. But of course, the story of the bird never known by the lawyer or by the sheriff. It's only the two women who later on are going to connect the dots and realize these things. That's what Mr. Hale said. There was a gun in the house, so if there is a thief, why didn't he use the gun? Or why John Wright didn't use the gun to defend himself? The Sanderson said coming out of that was needed for the case was a motive, something to show anger or certain feeling. All what is needed to condemn Minnie Wright, to send Minnie Wright to death, is a motive. They should find why she killed her husband because nobody knows about their marriage. Nobody knows if they are good marriage, if it's a good marriage or not. But if he could find the lawyer, if he could find a motive to show to the jury and the judge, then that would be enough to put Minnie to death. So they are searching for a motive, something to show anger or sudden feeling that she was angry at him. That's why she did it. And that's what the two women are going to hide the evidence so that they would hide the motive. Hopefully, they would save Minnie from death. We don't know if Minnie was sent to death or not. It's a play. It ends where it ends. It ends by just the women hiding the evidence, and that's it. Everybody leaves the house. We don't know what happened later on, but it's just a story about the harsh married relationship, about women need to stand by one another, um, loneliness and isolation and depression. So all those feelings, all those themes. Okay, I'm gonna stop here this video and I'll continue maybe next video.